On an international flight bound for Buenos Aires, the cabin crew couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that something was off when they noticed a small black boy seated beside a white man whose mannerisms struck them as oddly tense. Flight attendant Anna Hensley, age 32 and an 8-year veteran of Skypath Airlines, had long since learned to trust her instincts. The subtle hitch in a passenger's posture, the furtive glance at a wristwatch, or the way someone smiles doesn't quite reach their eyes. That early morning, as the first pale light of dawn began to filter through the expansive glass panels of the airport terminal, Anna was navigating the bustling crowd with practiced ease, her personal-sized suitcase wheels tapping a steady beat against the polished floor. Overhead announcements crackled through the speakers, blending with muffled conversations in a dozen languages and the occasional burst of laughter from families reunited after months apart. Amid the sea of weary travelers and the neutral hues of gray jackets and navy backpacks, a sudden splash of crimson caught her eye. A little boy, no older than 7 or 8, dancing and spinning in the queue. He wore an ordinary blue shirt and well-worn jeans, but it was the scarlet Crocs on his feet that punctuated every skip and twirl, as if each step announced, "I am here, and today I choose joy." Their bright colors seemed almost defiant against the tedium of travel. When Anna's gaze met his, the boy beamed, lifting one small hand in a carefree wave that warmed her chest and reminded her why she had once fallen in love with this job. But the moment was shattered in an instant by the man at his side, presumed to be his father, who bent down, whispered something sharp, and watched the boy's radiant grin collapse. Shoulders hunched, the child's eyes darted down to his feet, and Anna caught the glimmer of tears before they fully formed. The man, flustered by the swift change, ripped a handful of tissues from his bag and roughly wiped at the boy's cheeks, brusquely hissing, "Stop crying! You're too old for this. What will people think?" Anna felt a jolt of discomfort as she witnessed this private reprimand in the public space, but she reminded herself that crying children and frustrated guardians were part of her everyday life. With a small shake of her head to dispel the troubling image, she continued toward the crew check-in counter, where the digital display flashed SKP 412, Buenos Aires. By the time Anna greeted her colleague Sophia, already unloading her own suitcase, with a grin and a cheery, "Good morning, Anna. Ready to conquer the skies?" She had swept the image of the Red Crocs to the corners of her mind. Their lighthearted banter about dinner plans and dreams of sizzling Argentine steak and velvety Malbec carried them through the rest of the crew's arrival, warm handshakes, friendly teasing, and a brief update on layover logistics. When the captain finally appeared, exuding calm authority, as he called the team together for the pre-flight briefing, Anna dutifully stowed her worries alongside her uniform's neatly pressed collar and polished name badge. "Clear skies," the captain announced, his voice crisp and professional, and a smooth flight path. "Let's review standard protocols." As he outlined the plan for departure, expected turbulence zones, and emergency procedures, Anna found her thoughts drifting back to the little boy. Where was he headed, and what had silenced his happiness so abruptly? Yet she refocused, knowing that every detail of today's flight could matter. After the briefing, the crew fast-tracked through security and immigration. Anna's meticulous nature had her triple-checking her passport, ID, and boarding pass, even though she knew the drill by heart. Arriving at the gate a full 90 minutes early, she seamlessly transitioned into her pre-flight duties, walking the length of the cabin to inspect each life vest's straps and seams, confirming fire extinguishers were securely latched, and ensuring oxygen tanks were fully charged and ready. In the galley, she organized the drink carts, wiped down surfaces until they gleamed, and neatly aligned the utensils, every action a silent promise of safety and comfort for the passengers she would soon welcome aboard. Yet as she placed the final tray cover in position, the memory of those small red Crocs tugged at her thoughts. Instinct told her something was truly amiss, and although airport security and local authorities seldom needed her input, Anna knew that vigilance was part of her oath. Whatever lay ahead on this routine flight, she was determined to uncover the truth and protect the vulnerable, no matter where in the world the journey might take them. As Anna methodically confirmed that every life vest snapped securely under each seat, cleared away any stray trash, and tucked the safety cards neatly in place, she found comfort in the familiar rhythm of her pre-flight routine. With a final sweep of the cabin, checking seat pockets, straightening armrests, and ensuring no stray items were left behind, she allowed herself a brief nod of satisfaction. At exactly 8:45 a.m., she took her station at the aircraft's door, smoothing her uniform and summoning her brightest smile as the boarding announcement chimed through the gate area. Now boarding SkyPath Airlines flight SKP-4112 to Buenos Aires. Greeting each passenger with warm politeness, Anna scanned boarding passes and directed travelers efficiently down the aisle. Business commuters in crisp suits, families juggling carry-ons, solo adventurers clutching guidebooks. Then she froze. The man and little boy she'd glimpsed earlier had reappeared, the boy's scarlet Crocs now joltingly vivid amid the muted carpet. "Good morning," Anna said softly, accepting their passes. Their seats, 18A and 18B, lay just ahead on the right. She watched as the man brusquely gestured to his son where to stow his backpack, the boy's shoulders drooping once more under his father's stern gaze. As boarding slowed, Anna knelt beside Liam and asked gently, "First time flying?" His shy nod and wide-eyed wonder reminded her of his earlier playfulness. "We have a little gift for first-time flyers. Would you like one?" The boy's face lit up until his father cut him off. "No, Liam, we don't need extra things." Deflating, Liam's enthusiasm faded, but Anna quickly offered, "How about a special snack?" "Later?" His small smile returned, and Anna promised she'd stop by once service began. With the final passengers seated and overhead bins clicked shut, Anna moved to the galley as the cabin crew took their positions. The pre-flight safety video rolled, seatbelt signs pinged on, and the engines warmed up. During the taxi and the surge down the runway, she nearly missed an uneasy whimper from mid-cabin, a child's cry that sounded more fearful than the usual pressure change protest. As the jet climbed into the sky, Anna's experienced heart tightened. Despite her countless takeoffs, she couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that this flight held more secrets than met the eye. Once the seatbelt sign clicked off and Anna readied herself for the in-flight service, she couldn't resist stealing a worried look toward row 18, where Liam sat unnervingly silent beside the man, his scarlet Crocs barely peeking out from under the seat ahead. As the aircraft settled into its cruising altitude, Anna and Sophia slipped into the galley, their practiced hands loading steaming water into thermal carafes, lining up meal trays, and organizing the duty-free items they would soon offer. While Anna stacked cups on the service trolley, she spotted Liam hesitantly appear at the galley threshold, his eyes shifting anxiously between the two attendants. Gently setting down the cups, Anna crouched to his level and asked if he needed help with the lavatory or anything else, but the boy only shook his head, tears still glistening at the corners of his eyes. Remembering her promise of a treat, she produced a bag of chocolate cookies, which Liam hugged to his chest before timidly requesting to stay in the crew area rather than return to his father's side. Concerned, Anna explained that passengers weren't permitted in the galley and asked why he didn't want to go back. Liam's face fell, panic flickering in his wide eyes as he whispered that his mother was supposed to be on the flight too, and that his father had promised she'd meet him soon. Anna's stomach turned cold. She had seen only the man when they boarded. Before she could probe further, the man appeared, calmly brushing off the situation as nerves, but his grip on Liam's shoulder felt far too possessive. He directed his son toward the restroom, and although Liam hesitated, asking for Anna to accompany him, he was ushered away after slipping his cookie bag to his father. A muffled sob echoed from behind the lavatory door, cleverly masked by the flush cycle. When they returned moments later, Liam's face was freshly washed, but drawn with sorrow. Without a word, the pair reclaimed their seats. Anna watched them go, a knot of dread tightening in her chest. With no hard evidence, she returned to her duties, vowing to keep her eyes locked on row 18 for whatever the rest of this flight might reveal. As Anna and Sophia settled into their own lunch break, the hum of the galley's equipment and the muted chatter of the cabin crew should have provided a reassuring backdrop. But Anna's appetite had vanished the moment she spotted Liam asleep in row 18. His head rested against the window's cool surface, the gentle rise and fall of his chest betraying the deep, drugged slumber that had overtaken him. She recalled the series of unsettling incidents in minute detail, the boy's bright red Crocs splattered with vomit that was tinged pink and studded with partially dissolved chalky fragments, the furtive packet of pills that the man had swiftly pocketed, the way the father's voice had taken on a convincing, almost sinister softness as he'd promised Liam that taking his medicine would bring his mother back. And the mother, Anna realized with a sudden pang, that there had been no mother at all during boarding, no doting parent waiting alongside the boy. The woman who should have been there, Anna's instincts screamed, was nowhere to be seen. With Sophia engrossed in conversation at the counter, Anna allowed herself a furtive glance at the small family cluster in row 18. The man sat rigidly, his gaze fixed on his phone, one arm draped possessively over the armrest, as if he feared Liam might vanish if he dared look away. Liam, curled into himself, looked smaller than ever, the bright exuberance of the morning replaced by a hollow stillness that set Anna's teeth on edge. The infantile tremor in his tiny frame spoke of reluctance rather than illness, a child yielding to the chemical lull of medication rather than drifting off after a momentary spasm of nausea. Anna's heart pounded as she remembered the way he had desperately begged to stay in the crew area, to avoid returning to his father's side, only to be coaxed into the lavatory under false pretenses and handed a second dose of whatever lay hidden in that innocuous packet. Unable to ignore the gnawing worry, Anna rose from her stool and retrieved a spare set of napkins and 2 air sickness bags before slipping quietly back into the cabin. She paused at the threshold of row 18, careful to mask her concern with the calm, professional demeanor her uniform demanded. "Excuse me, sir," she began, her voice steady though her pulse raced. "Would you like another bottle of water for your son? I noticed he might feel faint after such a heavy lunch." The man looked up, his features schooled into an expression of polite detachment. "No, thank you," he replied curtly, tucking his phone into his pocket before his eyes flicked downward at Liam's prone form. "He's fine," he insisted, though a tremor of unease flickered across his eyes. Anna swallowed past the lump in her throat and leaned forward, addressing Liam directly. "Sweetheart, if you wake up and feel dizzy, come to the galley, okay? We have ginger tea that can help settle your stomach more gently than before." At the mention of ginger tea, which she knew was a milder remedy than whatever potent pills the boy had been given, Liam's eyelids fluttered and a faint crease of worry crossed his brow. The man immediately placed a heavy hand on the boy's shoulder. "Liam, don't bother the nice lady," he murmured, smoothing down the back of the seat cover with deliberate calm. Yet his grip was too firm, and the boy's body stiffened in protest before dissolving back into his unnatural sleep. Anna forced a serene smile as she retreated down the aisle, but her mind was racing. She mentally reviewed her options. Confronting airport security or notifying the captain would risk panic, with no hard evidence beyond her gut feeling and the boy's drugged state. Yet doing nothing felt impossible. As she slid back into the galley next to Sophia, she whispered, "Something's very wrong with that child. He's been drugged." Sophia's eyes widened, but she nodded, understanding immediately. Together, they made silent plans to keep a closer eye on row 18, to chart every movement of the man and observe any further attempts to medicate Liam. Throughout the remainder of the flight, Anna's focus fractured between her standard post-service duties, clearing dishes, securing the galley for landing, double-checking that all service carts were locked, and the silent vigil she kept at the edge of. Her thoughts for Liam in his seat. The boy's pale face, the faint ridges of soap-streaked hair, and the small, trembling remnants of trust in his eyes haunted her, anchoring her resolve. When the descent began and the seatbelt sign dinged back on, Anna positioned herself near the first-class divider, from where she could keep row 18 in view without drawing attention. Her heart thumped painfully as she imagined the world beyond the cabin, no mother waiting, just a child alone with a man whose intentions remained hidden behind a veneer of control and calculated kindness. As the plane cut through the evening sky, the last light of day filtering through the windows, Anna vowed she would not let this story end with Liam returned to whatever fate awaited him on the ground. She would find a way, somehow, to ensure his safety before the wheels touched down. Anna took a steadying breath and stepped into the aisle, her uniform crisp and her expression calm. She began moving toward the center of the cabin, nodding reassuringly to passengers who peered up at her through worried eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen," she spoke quietly but clearly, "we've just been advised that weather and air traffic require a slight change of plans. We will be landing shortly in Panama City. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened until we've come to a complete stop." Her voice was warm, professional, every syllable chosen to keep the mood from tipping into panic. Behind her, Sophia circulated through first class, quietly fielding questions about refreshments and flight duration. As Sophia soothed a nervous business traveler, Anna caught sight of Liam's red Crocs again, even from several rows back. He hadn't stirred. The man at his side now kept his phone in his lap, face pinched, but eyes flicking furtively over his shoulder. Anna made a mental note of their posture, both rigid, both alert for any hint of being scrutinized. When she reached row 18, Anna knelt beside Liam's seat, careful not to draw undue attention. "Liam, we're almost there," she said softly. "You did great." His pale cheeks twitched in what might have been a grateful smile. She slipped him a small packet of ginger candies from her pocket, something to settle the stomach more gently, and placed her hand lightly on his shoulder. The man didn't intervene, merely exhaled and allowed Anna's small gesture. Anna kept her voice low. "If you need anything, just press the call button, okay?" Liam nodded, his eyelids fluttering closed again. Rising, Anna passed a discreet glance to Sophia, who gave her a barely perceptible nod. Their silent pact was in place. Alert the authorities the moment the doors opened, but until then, blend seamlessly with the cabin crew. The captain's announcement buzzed again over the intercom. "Cabin crew, prepare for landing. Secure the cabin and take your seats." Anna clicked the cart's brake into place and, with a practiced swivel, stored it in the forward galley. She gathered stray service items, unused napkins, half-empty water bottles, and stowed them in the service lockers. Every movement was efficient, unhurried, betraying no hint of the urgency beneath her composure. Down the aisle, Sophia checked overhead bins one last time, clicking each latch shut. Passengers exchanged nervous glances. Flight attendants offered calm smiles and brief reassurances. At the front, Anna toggled the galley's secure locks and took her assigned seat near the cabin's exit row. From there, she had a clear view of Liam's seat across the aisle. As she buckled in, her heart pounded. She replayed the captain's directive. Absolute normalcy. She squared her shoulders and adopted a calm, neutral expression. Outside, the engines throttled back as the pilot guided the jet toward its descent path. Rain spattered against the windows, evidence of the same system that had forced the diversion. Anna stole a glance at the circuit of overhead lights, green turning to amber, and then at Liam, who lay slumped against the window, breathing steadily. The man beside him sat rigid, phone pressed to his ear in silent conversation, perhaps updating someone on the unexpected route change. As the seatbelt sign chimed back on, Anna unbuckled and rose. She smoothed her uniform and made her way to the cabin door, exchanging curt nods with the lead flight attendant on the jump seat. The door's snubber arm clicked into place, then was released. A gentle hiss of air signaled the cabin had equalized. Anna hovered in the threshold, her stance composed and welcoming. Moments later, the ramp crew's voices crackled faintly over the cockpit radio. Panama immigration and security teams were on standby. Anna felt a surge of relief. They were ready. Still, she maintained her mask of routine. As we prepare to disembark, please remain seated until the seatbelt sign turns off, she announced, smiling at the nearest row of passengers. Our ground team will assist you once we've come to a complete stop. The plane's wheels kissed the rain-slicked runway and, in a breath, thundered into a smooth taxi. Anna's eyes flicked quickly to row 18 one last time. The boy and his guardian remained seated, stationary, their expressions inscrutable. She tapped Sophia lightly on the arm. The other attendant glanced back and caught her meaning. Together, they stood ready to surround that row when the doors opened, to protect the child without alarming the man. The jet slowed to a halt. A final chime sounded. Anna felt her pulse surge. She opened the cabin door, the humid, drizzle-laden air from Panama drifting in. Uniformed security officers lined the jet bridge, their faces unreadable, but their posture alert. Anna stepped aside, signaling passengers into the aisle. "Thank you for your patience," she intoned. "Please gather your belongings and proceed single file." Passengers filed past, unaware of the drama poised to unfold. Anna calmly directed traffic, watching as the boy and the man waited in their row. When it was their turn, Anna stepped forward and gently placed her hand on the man's arm. "Sir, could you and your son please step this way? Air traffic control has some additional questions." Her tone was neutral, almost helpful. The man glanced at Liam, whose eyes met Anna's for a moment, a flicker of hope evident. "Of course," the man said, though his voice trembled faintly. He rose, guiding Liam forward by the sleeve of his shirt. As they passed Anna, she gave the boy an encouraging smile. "You're almost there, buddy." Liam returned the smallest of grins, clutching his ginger candies. At the head of the line, Anna watched as security officers gently but firmly took the man's arm and guided Liam into a separate, safer corner of the jet bridge. A woman in plain clothes emerged, Panama's child protection liaison, and knelt to the boy's level, her expression both professional and tender. Anna exhaled, feeling the tension drain away in a flood of relief. The crisis had been averted. Turning back into the cabin, Anna rejoined Sophia, who offered her a tight, grateful smile. In the distance, the pilot's voice crackled once more over the intercom, quieter now, more relieved. "Good work, team." Anna allowed herself a small, weary smile and nodded. Today, an ordinary flight had become a rescue mission, and she, along with her remarkable colleague, had helped return a lost little boy to his mother's arms. "Mark Trent," the lead plainclothes officer said, stepping forward with a badge discreetly clipped to his lapel. His voice was calm but carried an unmistakable undercurrent of authority. "We need you and your son to come with us, please." Anna's pulse hammered in her ears as she gently shifted Liam's limp form in her arms, cradling him like a fragile doll. The man, Mark Trent, froze, his knuckles whitening further on the handle of his cabin bag. He glanced between the officer and Anna, his lips parting as though to object, but no words came. Behind the lead officer, two more agents emerged onto the jet bridge, their posture professional, prepared. "Sir," the lead officer continued, "we have reason to believe your son may have been taken without his mother's consent. We need to verify his well-being and reunite him with his family as quickly as possible." He extended a gentle hand toward the boy. "Could you please hand him over to me so we can get him checked by medical staff?" Mark Trent swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing visibly. His face, pale and taut, flickered with panic and something else. Defiance? He hesitated for a heartbeat too long. Then he released the bag strap in Anna's direction, stepping back even as he roared, "He's my son. I don't have to—" He cut off mid-sentence when another agent stepped forward, unmistakable calm replacing any hint of aggression. "It's okay, sir," Anna interjected softly, keeping her voice measured. "They're just looking out for him. I promise you, it's the fastest way to get you both the help you need." She brushed a loose strand of hair from Liam's forehead and met Trent's eyes. "Let him rest here. He's in good hands." Something in her tone, a mixture of empathy and quiet insistence, must have reached him. His shoulders slumped, and he looked away, unable to hold her gaze. With trembling hands, he handed Liam to the lead officer, who accepted the boy with careful reverence, cradling him like Anna had only moments before. The second agent produced a small medical kit and began checking Liam's pulse, listening at his chest, while the third knelt beside them to ask gentle, clear-eyed questions. "Sir," the lead officer said again, politely but firmly addressing Mark Trent, "we're going to escort you to the security office for an interview. After that, you'll be free to accompany your son to medical evaluation." He motioned for Trent to step forward. Anna watched as Trent's protests dwindled into silent compliance. In that moment, she felt both a crushing sorrow for the boy's ordeal and an immense relief that the crisis was finally being addressed. She caught Sophia's eye across the jet bridge, a shared look of gratitude and quiet triumph, and allowed herself a tiny exhalation of relief. The officers led Mark Trent off the bridge, one supporting him lightly on the elbow. The lead officer ushered the medical agent forward with Liam, while another plainclothes officer turned to Anna and Sophia. "Thank you for your vigilance," the man said, nodding respectfully. "Without your observations and quick response, we might not have caught this in time." Anna felt a flush of pride and fatigue wash over her. "I just did what any of us would do," she murmured, although she knew she likely spoke for no one but herself. She glanced back at Liam, now receiving gentle care as a nurse checked his temperature and applied soothing wipes to his cheeks. His eyes fluttered open, confusion washing across his face, until recognition dawned, and he blinked, spotting Anna. "Miss," he whispered hoarsely, his words ghost-soft. "Thank you." Tears pricked at Anna's eyes, but she blinked them away. "You're safe now, Liam," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "That's what matters." She felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to see the airline's ground operations manager, a kind-faced woman in a tailored blazer. "We'll take over now," she said gently. "Please come with us to complete the landing procedures." Anna nodded, straightening her posture. She and Sophia followed the airline manager and the officers off the bridge and into the terminal's secure wing. The corridor's fluorescent lights hummed overhead, and the distant thrum of arriving flights echoed through the building. A cluster of waiting family members and press photographers gathered beyond a temporary barrier, voices hushed but expectant. Inside a small security office, Anna sat on a metal-framed chair beside Sophia, while the lead plainclothes officer finished his notes. "We'll ensure Liam is reunited with his mother shortly," he assured them. Anna's heart softened. The thought of Liam back in his mother's arms filled her with the day's most genuine warmth. A knock sounded on the door, and the officer rose. "That should do it," he said, a trace of a smile in his eyes. "His mother is here. He's safe." He gestured for Anna and Sophia to stand. Together, they walked into the bright arrivals hall. There, a woman with tear-streaked cheeks and outstretched arms stood trembling as Liam wrapped himself tightly around her. Their embrace was the purest thing Anna had ever witnessed, a reunion that needed no words. Tears of relief and joy cascaded as the mother held her son, repeatedly murmuring, "My brave boy, my brave boy." Anna stood back, letting them have their moment. She felt Sophia's gentle squeeze on her arm and allowed herself a small, relieved smile. Today, they had done more than serve drinks and direct passengers. They had safeguarded a child's life and returned him to the love of his family. As the airport staff guided the child and his mother toward the terminal exit, Anna took a deep, steadying breath. The crisis had passed, but its lessons would stay with her always. That vigilance, compassion, and the courage to act, no matter how routine the day may seem, could change a life forever. Anna watched the exchange between detective, mother, and airline staff with a profound mixture of relief and lingering concern. The detective's explanation that Mark Trent had admitted plotting to spirit Liam away to Argentina, where the boy's biological father lived but lacked legal custody due to past abuse, drove the final pieces of the puzzle into place. Learning that Uncle Mark was not Liam's father but his estranged uncle shattered any last doubts Anna had harbored about the relationship she'd assumed. Even more distressing was the revelation that Liam had been taken from a playground just days earlier in the supposedly safe confines of a shopping center's supervised play area. Melissa's trembling account, how she dashed inside to grab groceries, assured in her mind that Liam was secure among children wearing matching identification bracelets, sent a new wave of empathy surging through Anna's chest. As the detective detailed next steps, recommending Melissa file a formal report with Miami authorities to investigate the playground's security lapses and offering support from Child Protection Services, Anna found her eyes drawn again to Liam. Now fully awake and nestled protectively in his mother's arms, he looked smaller somehow, the imprint of fear and betrayal lingering on his face. Melissa soothed him with soft coos, brushing back damp strands of hair and planting tender kisses on his forehead. "You're safe, my love," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "We're going home." Anna felt a palpable weight lift as she realized this nightmare had reached its end. Yet she also felt a profound respect for every link in the chain that had brought about this rescue. The vigilant air traffic controller who relayed the missing child alert, the captain who diverted the flight without alarming a single passenger, the crew members who maintained their composure under extraordinary circumstances, and the ground agents who sprang into discreet action the moment the doors opened. Behind every procedural announcement, every calm reassurance, and every pre-flight safety check lay a profound human commitment to protect the vulnerable. The detective nodded in Anna's direction. "We'd like to speak with you briefly, Ms. Hensley, if you don't mind. Your observations were critical." Anna followed him into a quiet corner of the terminal where a notepad lay ready. As she recounted the strange interactions, the tears suppressed in the queue, the unusual insistence on misdirection about the mother's presence, the oddly tinted vomiting, the furtive pills, her recollection of each detail grew sharper. The detective listened intently, pen moving swiftly. Outside the window, the last of the flight's passengers ambled through the terminal, their conversations drifting by like distant currents of normalcy that now felt impossibly remote. When Anna finished, the detective offered a sincere, "Thank you. You've done more than your duty. You may have prevented a tragedy." Anna managed a small, tired smile. "I just did what I could," she whispered, thinking of Sophia's calm eyes and the teamwork that had made everything possible. As she handed over her contact information and the photo of the mirror message she'd captured, she felt a quiet pride in knowing that something as simple as noticing a child's red Crocs could become the catalyst for justice. Returning to the gate area, Anna and Sophia paused outside the secured zone, leaning against the cool metal railing. The hum of luggage carts, distant PA announcements for connecting flights, and the intermittent rumble of arriving jets grounded them back in the everyday world of air travel. Sophia slipped an arm around Anna's shoulders. "You saved that boy's life today," she said in a low voice. "I couldn't have done it without you." Anna exhaled, her tension giving way to exhaustion. "We saved him," she corrected softly, her gaze drifting toward the glass walls overlooking the ramp where Skypath's jets glistened in the late afternoon sun. "We did it together." She paused, then added, "I hope Melissa and Liam make it safely back home tonight." And I hope this leads to better security at that playground, so no other family has to go through what they did." Sophia squeezed her hand. "It will," she replied firmly. "You made sure of that." As they turned to head back toward the crew break room to finalize the flight report, an otherwise mundane task now transformed into a chronicle of courage and quick thinking, Anna felt a renewed sense of purpose. Every safety demonstration, every passenger check, and every routine aisle walk became imbued with significance. In that moment, she understood more deeply than ever that the simplest act of attention, watching, caring, refusing to look away, could ripple outward in ways that save real lives. Later, on the short flight back to Miami, this time under normal circumstances, Anna settled into her jump seat, the cabin lights dimmed for passenger rest. She closed her eyes and reflected on the day's extraordinary turn of events, the red Crocs that caught her attention in a crowded terminal, the cry of a frightened child, the urgent call from the cockpit, and the final hopeful image of mother and son reunited. She felt a swell of gratitude for the invisible network of people working across airports, airlines, and law enforcement who had responded with such precision and compassion. As the engines hummed and the plane soared southward toward familiar shores, Anna allowed herself a quiet moment of serenity. Tomorrow would bring reports to write, debriefings to attend, and the comforting drone of everyday flights to perform. But she also carried with her an unshakable truth, that vigilance paired with empathy has the power to rewrite destiny, one split-second decision at a time. And that was a lesson she would carry with her on every flight for the rest of her career. Anna watched Melissa cradle Liam's small hand in hers, the boy's eyelids fluttering as he drifted between curiosity and drowsiness. At the mention of the lounge, and with the promise of something to eat, Liam had managed a tiny, hopeful grin, the first genuine spark of his old self that Anna had seen since morning. As they gathered their belongings, a single carry-on bag and a stuffed giraffe Melissa had produced from a small backpack, and made their way through the terminal's calm corridors, Anna allowed herself a moment to breathe. The day's whirlwind of alarms, diversions, and clandestine interventions had finally given way to the hushed tranquility of the lounge, where soft leather chairs and low lighting felt like a sanctuary. Melissa checked in at the reception desk, her voice polite but weary, and Anna slipped in beside them, relieved to be unofficially on this flight with them. As they passed through the threshold, the lounge unfurled in muted hues of slate and cream. A quiet hum of distant conversation rose from groups scattered among the armchairs, and a low hum of classical music softened the atmosphere. Melissa paused at the buffet, where warm soups, sandwiches, and an array of fresh fruit were laid out. With gentle encouragement, she urged Liam to choose what he desired. The boy's fingers, still a little shaky, reached for a small bowl of strawberries and a plate of lightly toasted bread. Anna watched as he took a cautious bite, his cheeks flushing at the sweetness. "Good?" Melissa asked softly. "Very good," he whispered, managing a small nod before his eyes returned to the scattered offerings. Sitting down at a corner table, the three of them shared a simple meal. Between spoonfuls of chicken noodle soup, Melissa recounted in muted, halting sentences what had happened since Liam's disappearance from the playground, the frantic calls to the police, her sleepless nights, the agonizing fear that her child had vanished forever. Anna listened, her heart tightening with empathetic recall of her own anxious moments that morning in the terminal. She reached out to place a reassuring hand on Melissa's arm. "You did everything you could," she said softly. "And you have him back now." Liam, sipping ginger tea Anna had fetched from the service station, gazed up at Anna with wide, trusting eyes. "Thank you," he murmured, his words thick with the last traces of sedation and sheer relief. Anna smiled back, her own eyes moist. "You're very brave," she told him. "I'm so glad you're safe." A few minutes later, a representative from SkyPath's corporate office, An impeccably dressed woman with a kind but professional demeanor approached their table. "Ms. Hensley," she began, glancing between Anna and Melissa, "the airline would like to formally recognize your quick thinking today. Your vigilance helped us coordinate with law enforcement and ensure this young man's safety. Would you be willing to accept a letter of commendation?" Anna's cheeks warmed at the unexpected honor. She straightened in her seat. "It was truly a team effort," she said, glancing at Sophia, who had quietly slipped in at the edge of the lounge to offer support. "I only did what anyone would have done." The corporate representative smiled and produced an official certificate, which Anna accepted with quiet gratitude. Melissa looked on with awe, as if seeing Anna in a new light, not just a friendly crew member, but a guardian angel who had watched over her family in crisis. Liam, now more alert, carved small shapes out of his toast, the rigid lines of fear softening in his brightening gaze. As departure time approached, Melissa gathered her forms and the small stack of airline vouchers that had been arranged for them. Liam packed his giraffe back into his mini backpack, patting it gently as if greeting an old friend. Anna stood and stretched, the weariness of her 8-year career and the extra hours she'd voluntarily added that day suddenly pressing in on her muscles. Yet beneath the fatigue, she felt an invigorating surge of purpose. She had not just served coffee and checked seatbelts today. She had changed the trajectory of a child's life. At the lounge exit, a final security check awaited. A uniformed attendant greeted them, verifying their credentials and waving them through with a welcoming smile. "Have a safe flight back to Miami," he said kindly. Anna linked arms with Melissa on the other side, walking slowly down the jet bridge together. The glass walls framed a view of the runaway lights gleaming on the tarmac. In the distance, their Skypath aircraft sat waiting, its engines silent in the overhead twilight. Before stepping aboard, Melissa turned to Anna. "I can't thank you enough," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. "You saved my son." Anna swallowed, brushing away an errant tear. "It was the right thing to do," she replied. "Now let's get you home." Once on board, Anna resumed her uniform role, this time as a comforting, familiar face for Melissa and Liam. She helped stow their small roller bag, guided them to their seats, and reassured them of the smooth 1-hour flight ahead. Liam curled up against his mother, his red Crocs neatly tucked under the seat in front of him, but this time they seemed to symbolize resilience rather than alarm. As the cabin door closed and the engines sprang to life, Anna took her position by the galley, casting a final glance at the mother and child. With a deep, steadying breath, she prepared for takeoff, her heart light with relief and gratitude. Today, an ordinary routine had become an extraordinary rescue, reminding Anna why she had chosen this profession in the first place: to safeguard strangers at 30,000 feet, and, when fate demanded, to step beyond protocol and into compassion. As the aircraft roared down the runway and lifted toward the darkening sky, Anna felt a quiet pride. In a world of countless flights, this one would forever stand out as the day when vigilance, courage, and empathy converged to bring a small boy back to the arms of his mother, and brought Anna, too, back to the core of her calling. As Anna guided Melissa and Liam toward Gate A7, the airport's soft hum seemed to slow around her, as if the world itself were granting them a moment of reprieve. The tension that had coiled inside her all day began to unfurl. For 8 years, she had moved through terminals and cabins, adapting to jet lag and turbulence, greeting strangers and ensuring their safety, but nothing in her career had ever matched the gravity of today's events. Now, as she watched Liam's small hand twirl in his mother's, she allowed herself to savor this quiet victory. Liam's eyes, once hollow with confusion, now gleamed with childlike delight. Through the expansive windows, he pressed his forehead against the glass, pointing at the sleek fuselages taxiing below. "Mom, look, that one is enormous," he exclaimed, voice bright with wonder. Melissa smiled, relief radiating from her like sunlight. Anna stepped back, watching the reunion of mother and son unfold in gestures rather than words. The way Melissa's shoulders loosened, the gentle tilt of her head as she shared in Liam's excitement, the protective curve of her arm around his shoulders. "I can't ever thank you enough," Melissa said softly, her voice catching. She gathered the last of their belongings, 2 carry-on bags and a well-loved giraffe plush that Liam insisted on holding. "You didn't have to stay with us, yet you did." Anna shook her head, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "You two are like family now," she replied. "Besides, I promised to see you home." At the gate, flight attendants from the next leg of their journey greeted them by name. Anna introduced them to Melissa. "This is Mrs. Carter and her son Liam. They'll be on flight SKP 413 to Miami." The attendants nodded, offering warm smiles of welcome. While they verified seats and boarding passes, Anna lingered a moment, an unspoken promise passing between her and Melissa. Once aboard the aircraft, Anna fell seamlessly back into her role. She helped stow their roller bag in the overhead bin, stepped aside to give Melissa room, then locked eyes briefly with the boy. "Second flight, right?" she teased gently. Liam nodded eagerly. "Way better than the first," he insisted, plopping into his window seat and arranging his red Crocs neatly beneath the armrest. Anna fastened his seatbelt with practiced care, tugging it to ensure a snug fit. "There we go," she said with a smile. "All set?" Melissa exhaled a contented sigh. "All set," she confirmed, placing her hand over Liam's. Anna strolled down the aisle, offering reassuring nods to other passengers. When she reached the mid-cabin galley, she paused. An idea had struck her. She slipped away momentarily and returned bearing a small wooden puzzle, painted in the blue and white colors of the airline's logo. She knelt beside Liam's seat and held it out. "For our very special second-time flyer," she announced softly. The boy's eyes widened in delight, and he reached for the gift, his fingers tracing the smooth edges. "Thank you," he beamed, setting to work on fitting the pieces together even before Anna rose to continue her duties. As the engines spooled up and the cabin lights dimmed for departure, Anna took her place at the front for the safety demonstration. She spoke with calm authority, demonstrating seat belts and oxygen masks, but her eyes continually drifted toward row 12, Liam's row, where he mirrored her movements with solemn concentration. In that silent exchange, Anna felt the full circle of her day. A young boy's trust restored, a family reunited, a crisis averted by nothing more than noticing the bright red shoes in a sea of gray. When the aircraft lifted into the evening sky, Anna watched through the windshield as Panama's lights receded beneath a curtain of clouds. She allowed herself a quiet moment of reflection. Today had begun with a routine pre-flight, had soared into a rescue operation, and now was returning to a tranquil journey home. She felt a steady warmth in her chest, the knowledge that her vigilance had made all the difference. Mid-flight, as she and Sophia passed through the cabin with refreshments, Anna paused at Liam's seat to admire his puzzle, now nearly complete. "Well done," she praised. Liam looked up, his face alight. "I did it!" he declared, holding the finished plane aloft. Melissa's eyes glistened with gratitude as she squeezed her son's shoulder. Anna continued on her way, the gentle hum of the service cart wheels beneath her marking the comforting rhythm of normalcy. As descent began and the seatbelt sign chimed on, Anna slipped into her assigned jump seat near the exit row. From there, she had an unobstructed view of Melissa and Liam, who settled into each other's arms, drowsy but content. Anna buckled in, her mind already shifting to the flights that awaited her tomorrow. New passengers, fresh challenges, but she carried today's lessons with her, that empathy is as vital as protocol, that small details can save lives, and that sometimes the ordinary routines we perform hold extraordinary power. When the wheels touched down in Miami, the familiar bump and soft rumble of tires on tarmac brought a smile to Anna's lips. She released her belt, rose, and stepped into the aisle, just as passengers began to stir. At the front, she greeted each with her usual warmth. At the back, she intercepted Melissa and Liam for a final farewell. The boy surprised her with a swift hug around her waist. "Thank you for everything, Miss Anna," he whispered, his voice muffled by the folds of her uniform. Anna knelt to return the embrace, ruffling his hair. "Safe travels home, Liam," she murmured. "And keep dreaming big." Emotion stayed her step as she watched them disembark hand in hand, disappearing into the glow of the jet bridge. She straightened, heart full, and turned back to the cabin, ready to assist the last few passengers. In the reflection of an overhead bin's polished edge, she saw a tired but radiant face, eyes bright with the knowledge of a life changed, a small boy saved, and the truth that in her role as a guardian of the skies, even the smallest act of attention can become a beacon of hope.